It is Wednesday, March 24th, 2021. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was yet another non-virtual Get Your Ass Kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Wednesday. Actually did do some ass kicking. And did not. Well, I did kind of get my ass kicked. It wasn't one of those things where I actually had enough courage to stay for a brief portion of the advanced training session. But at least I am continuing to go. You know, it was challenging enough just to get back qualled and free to roll. But now I am. So creeping my way back into it as I typically do. Although I am kind of toying with the idea of going in tomorrow and going and trying to stay for the advanced class then, because, well, you know, I got to move on. I gotta move it forward, and I feel like I'm giving a bad example for people that are lower ranked than I am. You know, it's like excuses are kind of like the cold or any other cold, like the flu, you know, or COVID, in that, you know, you start making them for yourself, and then people suddenly have an excuse to do it for themselves. Oh, well, so and so did it, so I can just fluff it off, and I don't have to go and work out. And that's part of the responsibility of getting higher up in rank. I mean, you do have to consider your own health, and you do have to weigh that in the averages and all that stuff. But more importantly, you also have to consider the example that you're setting for your teammates and your training partners. And on that part, I failed my training partner in that I did not stay for at least one roll, and I probably should have. But, you know, I didn't. So here we are. You know, and I have a number of convenient excuses why, but, you know, mostly it's I did not want to start another class and then bail out and leave somebody without a partner, and also I'm not quite there yet. You know, I'm coming back from 3 weeks off, and so not exactly up to full speed quite yet, but I'm better off this time coming back than I have been in previous times. Like when I was training today, I felt very, very smooth and very composed. I still had a lot of trouble with one or two movements, and specifically it was like a brief roll to get out of knee on belly. And I was having trouble figuring out which shoulder to roll on. And I can only imagine that was some sort of product of the fact that I haven't been rolling. Because like the move on at that particular point is to be almost in a triangle position where you have one leg of your opponent, you're facing your opponent, they're down on the ground, and you've got one leg up, and you're cupping the knee on that leg, and then you've got your other hand on the inside of their knee holding it down, kind of posting out on it, and you post it fully over to the side and then staple it down with your leg. And then from there you do a back step, and your opponent, after you've done the back step and gotten to their side, your opponent is supposed to sneak out of it, and you pull them into a triangle kind of thing, and from there going into a modified, or like a choke. I don't know what the choke is called, but you're doing a gable grip on one side of their neck, and you've got your shin across the other side of their neck, and you're pulling them into your leg, basically pulling their neck into your leg. And I had the hardest time with that. But yeah, so all told, you know, my training partner for this in particular, he was a bigger guy, and I picked him specifically because he was bigger. And it was funny, he was trying to be all nice to me, and and not putting his knee like fully on my belly, and I'm like, dude, go ahead. You're not going to break me. I've had bigger, heavier guys on me than you, and I'm still here, so go ahead. You know, I mean, and part of the mentality behind that is very, very simple for me, is that if I ever get back to competing, I know for a fact I will never be going against somebody who is smaller than me. I will never be going up against somebody who is less skilled than I am. I mean, it's just the way it rolls out. I mean, like, literally, when I did the competition for the first time, the guy I went up against, I would be willing to put money on the fact that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the only fucking martial art ever invented by man that he holds only a white belt in. He knows all the rest of them. And, you know, I mean, and I could tell from his build that the guy spends a lot of time working on fitness. Not a slouch. Most likely on at least one PED. But that's neither here nor there. But that's the way things roll out for me when it comes to competition. You know, when I was in football, I was like the second or third smallest person on the entire fucking team. So when we practiced, I got ran over. And it didn't matter what position I was in, I got ran over. Because the person that was opposite me was fucking bigger than me by at least 6 inches, probably outweighed me by 20, 30 pounds. You know, just pushed me over. And I wasn't exactly small back then either. You know, and I know it's, you know, maybe it's part of my self-image or something, but it's like, it always feels like I'm going to be placed in that position, and then everybody will be like, oh yeah, well, you know, he's kind of a big guy, so he can take it. And so, you know, I just assume that is, and I prepare for the fact that that is going to be the way it pans out. I'm going to be against somebody heavier, bigger, stronger, whatever, more skilled, and I'm going to be facing all that shit on my own out there. So yeah, I had a really good training session, and he was a bigger guy, so it was kind of tough for him. But he didn't. Towards the end, he was putting both knees on my chest in the transition on knee on belly. One thing he was doing on that he needed to correct was that he was kind of flopping down on his knee on the second one, like we were doing 2, and then from that position doing the leg around. And it's almost like a half Granby roll. The person on the bottom has to do like a half Granby roll to get out from under the knee on belly. And that was the thing that I was having the most trouble with, because that move, it ends up to where you're facing your opponent and they're more or less facing you like if you were to try and get them in a triangle. But they've got one of your legs pointed straight up towards the ceiling, and the other one pinned down with their arm, transitioning to pinning it down with their leg. And like I said, it seemed like it wasn't until like the last 2 or 3 that I actually got that like part roll right. But I don't know. I'm sure it's one of those things that'll work out for me eventually. Just not there yet. But yeah, so all told, it was a pretty cool class. We got through the entire flow, and it was a flow. But it was funny, like my partner and I got it down so quickly, and I'll tell you right now, the gentleman, for his size and his shape, was moving fucking excellently. I mean, it's like I gave him a tip, and he implemented it. You know, and I mean, it almost gave me an impression like this was not his first jiu-jitsu class. And yeah, you know, like I said, I would make a little correction. He would like absorb it like a fucking sponge and then implement it like instantly. And I was like, yeah, he's fucking getting it. You know, I mean, it's like, I wish I was like that on all things. It takes me a little bit of effort. But yeah, like I said, it seemed like it was really sinking in for him, and I don't know whether to attribute that to like the way I was instructing or the fact that he has a great deal more experience than his white belt would seem to indicate. But yeah, really good class. All told, really good class. But at the end, I was asked by a lower belt if I was going to stay for the advanced class, and I said no. And I don't know if it was because that left him with no training partner, or the fact that he was looking for a reason to beg out, but he did not do the advanced class. And while we were in the locker room, he's like, oh yeah, I had an issue with my neck, and I was talking to him, and he was like, oh, well, would you go back out there if you had an issue with your neck? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, why not? It might get wrenched on, but it's not like something that's going to kill me. And plus, the guy's like 20 years younger than me, so what do you expect me to say? No, I would go home like a decrepit old man and sit in front of my TV and not do anything. He pretty much admitted that he didn't have anything to do at home. And I was just like, well, you might want to get back out there on that mat. I know that when I beg out like I did today, I feel guilty about it. I feel guilty about the fact that I didn't stay there. I feel guilty about the fact that I didn't do the advanced class with him specifically. I would have been more than happy to. But I had my prior obligations to you guys, and so here we are. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And we're going to go with Body Count right off the bat, because that's what we do here. But what song? I always have trouble picking the right one. They always have such good music. But we're going to do something off of Carnivore. And I was floating around Twitter today, and I thought it was pretty cool because it was concerning Lemmy from Motorhead. Apparently, when he died, he asked that he be cremated, and he arranged to have his ashes put into some bullets and then given to bequeathed to his a certain number of his friends that he had those bullets made for. And one of them was given to Ricky Rachtman. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Headbangers Ball, but if you're a metalhead and you're old like me, chances are you probably watched Headbangers Ball. It was a really unique show on MTV, and honestly, in all honesty, I would attribute pretty much all of MTV's success to that one show. And I know that's putting a lot on them, but imagine, for the most part, MTV started and like they were just playing videos. They played the video for Video Killed the Radio Star, and like from then on, that's pretty much all they did was just play music videos all day long. And metal videos in particular were cool, but relatively hard to come by. And they didn't really play a whole lot of them. Occasionally you catch some like Judas Priest or maybe some Guns N' Roses or something like that. But there were other bands that were making videos, that have been making videos for pretty much since music videos became a thing. And they weren't getting the regular play, though, that most of the pop stuff and the top 40 stuff was getting. And so they decided to do something to modify their programming a little bit. And I think it was 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. they ran this show. And it was called Headbangers Ball. And I can't remember her name. I want to say her name was Lauren something or other. Anyway, she was the host for it. And it got so popular that they gave it a much longer segment of time. But I think it was either Friday nights or Saturday nights. And I want to say it was between like 8 and 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. or some shit like that. Or it might have been 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, after it shifted to that, they started having this issue where they needed more hosts. And one of the hosts was Ricky Rachtman. And Ricky Rachtman hosted the Headbangers Ball, and he got popular enough from just doing that. They started asking him to do other stuff, like sporting events and shit like that. And so he covered concerts, he covered sporting events, did all kinds of stuff for MTV, and he got popular with some of the bands. And one of the bands, of course, was Motorhead. And so, yeah, he was given one of those bullets. And, I thought it was kind of interesting because it was something that was floating around in my Twitter feed today. And, we're going to open it up with Ace of Spades, covered by Body Count. First Dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was Slayer with Ghost of War, or Ghosts of War. Anywho, as far as what we're going to get into today, I've got a whole slew of tabs planned here. And caught something really cool on Twitter. As you guys may or may not know, I am a big fan of 3D printed guns. And I'm looking at perhaps the most beautiful build I've ever seen. I mean, it is really, really beautiful. And so, yeah, you guys should check that out. It's Print, Shoot, Repeat 3D Evo Sneak Peek. Fucking beautiful weapon. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, enough on the old 3D printed freedom there. We've got a whole bunch of stuff we want to cover today. And I'm trying to figure out the proper order to do this on, because we're actually going to kind of mesh several of our pet subject matter together. And this first one here is by Donald McIntyre, and this is on etherplan.com. And this is authored on October 7th, 2019. It's not new, but it's very pertinent, because there's been this struggle to push Ethereum from being a proof-of-work coin to a proof-of-stake coin. And I've never thought that was going to happen. I mean, for one thing, it's kind of a physical impossibility unless you get rid of every single Ethereum miner that's doing proof of work and maintaining that chain as a proof of work coin, and get just proof of stake validators doing the same function. The only problem with that is that it changes the balance, the trust balance of the cryptocurrency, because now the results of the blocks, the blocks that are included in the blockchain, they're no longer the product of a consensus, a global consensus of independent operating miners. It is now dependent on the say-so or the stake of the biggest stakeholders. And we'll get into that. I wrote a tweet, actually, and let me see if I can bring it up really quick here. I defined the difference between a proof of stake coin and a proof of work coin today, and I'm gonna do a quick check here and see if I can actually find it. Let's see here. No. Ah, fuck it. We'll just read it, and if I can find it, I'll read it out to you here. No, that's not it. Damn it. I was really hoping to be able to find that really quick. But I tweet so much that, yeah. Scroll. I'm pretty sure I'm past it already, so. Anyway, let's get back to this article that I intended on reading. Why proof of stake is less secure than proof of work. A proof-of-work based Nakamoto consensus blockchain, as Ethereum Classic, is a subjective system of accounts, balances, and smart contracts anchored on top of an objective physical base that uses large amounts of energy to produce blocks of data which are subsequently added to a highly secure chain of blocks in the system. By making this anchoring, the subjective layer acquires orders of magnitude more objectivity, thus security, than if it were not connected to a proof-of-work physical base. In search of scalability, proof-of-stake systems remove computationally unscalable proof-of-work, and that's not true, unscalable proof-of-work physical base, making their systems highly subjective again. And yeah, that computationally unscalable proof-of-work, that's bullshit. There's only one thing that makes cryptocurrencies unscalable, and it's an actual line of code, or several lines of code. But the point of being, it's code. It can be changed. The issue is called a block size limit. Without that parameter, all of these issues with scalability that Bitcoin faces would go away. Because instead of just limiting the network capacity to 1 megabyte per 10 minutes, it goes to however many fucking transactions network participants engage in over a 10-minute period. That may or may not be more than 1 megabyte. But see, putting that little limit in there, it might have been at the time it might have seemed like a good idea, but it's a fucking stupid idea. And eventually I believe it'll be removed. Because we're going to go through and we're going to entertain all of this bullshit that we can do all of the transactions on a completely separate layer, and we will still maintain the trust and validity of proof of work. It's bullshit. They're going to capture it that way. They're going to abuse, or they're going to monopolize it that way. And then they're going to abuse their monopoly position that way and fuck the entire global economy. But we're not going to go there tonight. Anyway, continuing on. Because of the above, I think the correct name of proof-of-stake systems is proof-of-stake distributed ledgers, as they are not systems that expend large amounts of energy to build and secure blocks of data. In fact, the reason they create batches of transaction data and link them as if they were quote-unquote blockchains is just an appeal to authority by mimicking real blockchain design, but that serves no purpose in increasing or decreasing objectivity, thus security, in the distributed ledgers. What I call the, quote, subjective section in these systems shared by both blockchains and distributed ledgers is basically where the useful features of functionality reside. And one thing I wanted to step off for just for one moment. You see, there's this term in here, and it's been used a few times. And it's been used by a few other entities. And it's distributed ledger, or DLT, distributed ledger technology. We usually hear people like the IMF describe cryptocurrency according to an ideal of distributed ledger. See, people don't view this stuff right. They don't understand that there are several entities involved speaking. And not all of them are saying the same things. They sound like they're saying the same things because somewhere along the line previously, somebody made a bullshit association between one thing and another that is now being casually accepted as truth or a synthesis or an accurate description. And it is not. Not the way it's used. People will use the term distributed ledger and distributed ledger technology in application to Bitcoin, despite the fact that here in this very article, distributed ledger is the given term this guy is giving to proof-of-stake networks. So what that tells me is that some people are planning and it's been their plan this entire time to push us away from participating in proof-of-work coins and instead pushing us into distributed ledger technology and more quote-unquote subjectivity as per the thesis of this very paper that we're reading right now. Continuing. What I call the subjective section in these systems, shared by both blockchains and distributed ledgers, is basically where useful features and functionality reside. And again, that's bullshit. It's where functionality has been separated away from and to. Like all of the things that you guys want to do, like off-chain and all that shit, all that stuff was incorporated into Bitcoin from the get-go before it had a block size limit. And since then, Blockstream, the people that are in charge of the development path of Bitcoin, have been driving to get rid of all of that stuff and then replace it with fucking features that are quote-unquote built on top of it, where you have to trust them and where you will have to pay somebody to do it for you. Instead of simply being able to encode it into your transactions, something like colored coins, all of this NFT bullshit. Yeah, that was all covered back in like 2010, 2011. There was opcodes in Bitcoin specifically to enable that functionality, and all of that shit was stripped out by Blockstream. So if you ever want to develop an altcoin that will be successful, you got 2 notes that you got to be paying attention to. Well, 3. Go proof of work, not proof of stake. Don't include a block size limit. And don't be trying to do all of the quote-unquote functionality outside of the cryptocurrency itself. Encode it into it. Opcodes. Very, very simple to do. Continuing. As seen in the diagram above, the components of the subjective section are the ledger, with accounts and balances of the native token. What? You guys using all kinds of bullshit here. Anyway, continuing. Balances of native token, EVM, Ethereum virtual machine, when applicable, a programming language, and smart contracts. On top of these go the decentralized applications, dApps, other applications such as IoT, and higher level scaling solutions such as channels and sidechains. In other words, back to trust systems. I call the subjective section in blockchains and distributed ledgers a, quote, community fiat token and system, as an analogy to fiat monetary systems, but instead of managed by governments or central banks, they are managed by their ecosystems. In other words, all of the rules, balances, smart contracts, and applications can be changed if agreed upon by the participants. This guy is like completely preparing people for the mimetic preparations that are necessary for making them end users, I swear. Anyway, continuing. However, the brilliant invention by Satoshi Nakamoto was to anchor these subjective systems, and thus insecure systems, to an objective physical base. Without that anchor, proof-of-stake distributed ledgers basically become traditional subjectively managed systems again. It doesn't matter what complex designs and choices they do. For example, federations, elected block producers, rotating validators, bakers, pools, epochs, slots, voting, quadratic voting, liquid democracy, slashing, treasuries, or any combination thereof, because in the end, it all depends on subjective human incentives, not on any other form of objective security, other than the fact that they happen to have the majority stake by whatever magic they manage to acquire it. Summary of features and differences. To illustrate why a POW objective anchor is more secure than proof of stake, it is worth reviewing the differences between the systems on a feature-by-feature basis. Fault tolerance. Proof of work, 50%. Proof of stake, 33%. Fork choice, meaning whether or not a coin forks. Objective, meaning they vote. subjective for proof of stake, meaning it's balanced according to the stakeholders' stake, not the voting. Anyway, continuing. Unforgivable costliness, proof of work, yes. Proof of stake, no. Proxy for value, proof of work, yes. Proof of stake, no. Accumulated work, yes for proof of work, no for proof of stake. Block creator location, external. Proof of stake, internal. Division of power, yes. Proof of work. Division of power for proof of stake, no. Sunk investment, yes for proof of work, no for proof of stake. Let's see. Full replication, yes for proof of work and no for proof of stake. Fall back to BitGold, yes for proof of work and proof of stake, no. Socially scalable, proof of work, yes. Proof of stake, no. And I don't believe that metric there is correct. I'm pretty sure that the social scalability of proof of stake is just dependent on the number of validators and the diversity of owners of the stake. Anyway, continuing. Computationally scalable, proof of work, no, and proof of stake, yes. And again, that one is incorrect too. Proof of work is perfectly scalable without a block size limit. Continuing on. Fault tolerance. Fault tolerance is the number of nodes in a distributed network who can disrupt the system if they are dishonest by sending corrupt information to their peers. And there's another point there too. If, for some reason, the developers decide we're going to do this on the development path and we're going to present this EIP or BIP or improvement proposal to the network, and if they don't accept it, they're in violation. They can say that, but what they can't do is point a gun at the head of every single miner on the planet and every single potential miner on the planet and say to them, you will mine according to the rules that we dictate to you. I mean, they can say that all they want, but they can't make it happen. They cannot literally make you, the miners, change the way that you're mining. And this is why Ethereum will probably never be a proof of stake coin, because it has a increasing number of miners that are out there competing for Ethereum. An increasing number, not decreasing. They've been trying to get it to go to proof of stake for like the last, 3-4 years. Actually, they've been having this debate since before Ethereum really even had a white paper. Vitalik had an idea, and then he put it to several votes how they should go forward with the idea. And a bunch of miners said, hey, we'll support it as a proof of work coin. And Vitalik said, well, I could say no and wait another year for anybody to be really interested in this and hope that nobody does it in the form of proof of work. Or I can say yes, get a network now, become uber rich, and then later on come back and bring this back to a vote again, whether or not we should transition over to proof of stake. Well, that's the option that he went with. He chose to accept the hash power of the miners that were offering to mine it as a proof of work coin. They wrote a proof of work algorithm for it. And here it is. They still have it as a proof of work network. And despite the efforts to change it over to a proof of stake network, I don't believe those miners are going to be really quick to give up that cash that they're making. Anyway, continuing on. Let's see. Before Bitcoin, distributed systems achieved 33% fault tolerance. Proof of work introduced by Bitcoin has a fault tolerance of 50%. It is worth mentioning, Bitcoin did not really solve the standard fault tolerance problem to achieve this level of security, but really bypassed it by creating an external physical signal miners send to the nodes in the network. POS, by removing proof of work, remains a 33% fault tolerant system. Fork choice. The fork choice is the decision rule network participants have to use when presented with more than one chain when it splits, when they join for the first time, or when they leave and join again. As an external physical signal, proof of work enables a clear objective fork choice in the form of the, quote, longest proof of work chain. It is objective because only with the computing power of the whole network is that the longest chain can be established. That was a weirdly written sentence. Anyway, continuing. The proof-of-stake systems don't count with such an objective quantity to decide the correct chain. They have to use a subjective decision-making process by the participants. This means they need to consult off-chain with block explorers, developers, miners, or other sources to be able to decide what chain to follow. This applies, in case of splits, to participating nodes in the network, new entrants, and nodes who leave and join again. Unforgivable costliness. One of the basic physical features of sound money is that it is very costly to produce to guarantee that it can't be forged. Proof of work provides the costliness of the tokens as miners incur huge costs in data centers and electricity to be able to build blocks. This makes proof of work tokens as ETC and BTC unforgivable in practice. In proof-of-stake systems, because the database with accounts and balances is trivial to write by nodes and stakers in the system, there is no objective costliness, also no security. Proxy for value. The costliness in proof of work mentioned in the point above also serves as a proxy for value of the tokens in the broader economy. In proof-of-stake systems, this feature is not present, so their tokens have no objective measure of value. Accumulated work. As miners in proof-of-work blockchains do work on a block-by-block basis, that work is not only a barrier for dishonest nodes to tamper with the current or latest blocks, but that work actually accumulates as the chain is built. This means blocks that are buried further away from in the chain become exponentially more difficult for attackers to change or forge. For example, at the time of this writing, it would take 340 days with 100% of the current hashing power in the network to be able to reverse the entire chain. In proof-of-work distributed ledgers, because they don't use proof-of-work, to reverse the entire chain is trivial in terms of computational work, so it can be done in a few minutes. Block creator location. As mentioned above, in proof-of-work, mining is an external process to the network of nodes who hold the ledger with accounts, balances, and smart contracts. This separates the ledger from the block creators, which gives the network of full nodes several benefits of security in their independence. In proof-of-stake, as the stakers can only participate if they actually have deposits in the ledger, that makes them internal to the database. Therefore, all of the other nodes in the network who maintain the ledger cannot be independent from block creators. Division of power. The previous point is extremely important in terms of security because, in proof of work, full node operators who also maintain the ledger can delink from block creators if they become corrupt or dysfunctional to the network. In proof-of-stake systems, that is impossible. They are stuck with the stakers, making the distributed ledger not censorship resistant. Sunk investment. In proof-of-work systems, miners have a real stake in the system, as they actually use capital to buy very costly equipment, build data centers, and buy electricity to produce blocks. This means that once they sink capital, the only way to recover it is to actually mine on the chain to be able to recover it with a profit. In proof-of-stake systems, stakers are actually not, quote, stakers because they sink no capital nor convert capital into any form of risky investment. They just move cash from a bank into a distributed ledger and continue earning interest for a trivial activity. Cash is not an investment. It is just uninvested capital that is running no risk whatsoever. Full replication. The other fundamental security design of secure blockchains is the full replication of the database. This means that the ledger is more secure as it is copied in as many nodes globally in the network as possible. Several proof-of-stake networks, such as Ethereum 2.0 and Cardano, in their search for higher scalability, are migrating from a replicated format to a fragmented database through sharding. This strategy further reduces security in those distributed ledgers. Fallback to BitGold. As it is illustrated in the first image in the article above, proof-of-work-based systems are a variant of a system created by Nick Szabo called BitGold. That system uses proof-of-work to have unforgivable costliness to produce, quote, digital gold in the system, and does not have an arbitrary determined token as Ethereum Classic or Bitcoin. It can be said that proof-of-work blockchains are BitGold, but with a ledger, token, and other components on top. This is important because if the fee system in those networks happens to fail as a compensation mechanism for miners, or if the ecosystem, however unlikely, decides to modify the monetary policy to issue more tokens irresponsibly, then these systems can fall back and convert their tokens into BitGold and continue building digital gold perpetually, as was the original design. Proof-of-stake systems, by eliminating the proof-of-work physical base, have entirely discarded this possibility. Socially scalable. Social scalability is determined by the fact a system is objective so that no one can be excluded from participating or using the system for any human condition or bias. As proof-of-work blockchains are highly objective, they are socially scalable on a planetary scale. Proof-of-stake systems will likely evolve to have very few stakers who control the system in practice. Those stakers will be easily identifiable and will be either pressured or by personal or institutional conviction will have a bias to exclude participants due to their origin, identity, activities, nationality, or other conditions, just like traditional systems do today. As proof-of-stake systems are subjective, which is the basis for a lack of social scalability, they will be confined and restricted to certain segments or regions, very similar to traditional systems today. Computationally scalable. This is the main feature that makes proof of work less performant and proof of stake systems very useful, perhaps in combination with proof of work systems. As proof of work requires a lot of work in the form of computations, their blocks can only be created every 15 seconds to 10 minutes. They also have some other physical restrictions in terms of local processing and global propagation. This makes proof of work computationally unscalable as compared to proof of stake. And again, this issue only exists because of the block size limit. This artificially throttles the network's capacity to process transactions from as many transactions as occur in a 10-minute period down to 1 megabyte of transactions, which is at last count I think like 1,000. And to that point, before the whole scalability issue became a debate in Bitcoin, I don't know how deep I want to really go into that one. that was a whole big debate. Anyway, continuing on. I'll just finish it off here. Physical restrictions are level. The 6 proof-of-stake fallacies. Given the above comparisons of the two systems, but the public narratives that proof-of-stake proponents have made popular, there are 6 basic POS fallacies that need to be clarified and debunked. 1. The sleeping with the enemy is fine fallacy. Mining in proof of work is external, but stakers in proof of stake are inside the ledger. In other words, full nodes cannot get rid of stakers in proof of stake systems, even if they split. This means that proof of stake is not censorship resistant, as censors cannot be evicted. Sleeping with the enemy is not fine. 2. The staking is sunk investment fallacy. There is really no such thing as, quote, staking in proof of stake. It's just a group of trusted rich participants controlling the system. Miners are in fact real stakers because they do sink capital in equipment, data centers, electricity, and bandwidth, and only recover their investments after mining for months, if not years. 3. The computer science innovation fallacy. Proof of stake is just a community fiat system or subjective traditional governance system. There is no innovation whatsoever and no computer science breakthrough in any way. In fact, the central banking model is, in practice, a proof of stake system. Participating banks have to make security deposits, have minimal capital requirements, and follow the rules to be licensed to accept and process transactions, maintaining the account balances of their customers. Proof of stake is no different. Number 4. The distributed ledger is blockchain fallacy. Proof of stake networks mimic the structure and processes of real blockchains as an appeal to authority, but are just distributed ledger networks. They are not blockchains. Blockchains are systems with expensive machines and energy investment to do incredible computing in proof of work to build very costly blocks. Proof of stake networks are trivial and cheap to run. Number 5. The mathematical gimmicks fallacy. Many proof-of-stake projects design highly complex mathematical models and algorithms to compensate for the lack of security of their systems, giving the impression of and appealing to high academic prowess, but just hiding centralization and gaining nothing in marginal security other than the base standard Byzantine fault tolerance of 33%. Number 6. The voting gimmicks fallacy. Many proof-of-stake projects invent voting mechanisms to compensate for their insecure models by appealing to the authority of, quote, democracy, balance of power, and basic guarantees in traditional systems. But that is no innovation and is insecure. True blockchains seek precisely to avoid these systems and design-making processes in the first place, or decision-making processes rather. Voting is the worst mechanism to make technical decisions in blockchains. It is just a conflict minimization device, but does not guarantee in any way permissionlessness nor sound engineering choices. And conflict is actually good in blockchain ungovernance systems. Conclusion. There are many reasons why proof of stake is less secure than proof of work. Very likely many more reasons than explained in this article. Absolutely. Furthermore, proof of stake systems should be better called, quote, non-proof of work distributed ledgers because they don't even have true staking in the system. However, proof of stake is better than traditional systems as they have some additional levels of distribution of power and are more diverse jurisdictionally. It could be said they lie somewhere in the middle in terms of security and social scalability between proof of work and traditional fiat systems, but much closer to fiat systems than proof of work. If proof-of-work based blockchains are combined subjective and objective systems, this model could actually be extended to proof-of-stake distributed ledgers, which could be anchored to existing proof-of-work blockchains to gain higher levels of security. And so you can see where they're taking Ethereum to proof-of-stake, or trying to. They're doing it by anchoring their proof-of-stake network to a proof-of-work network. Continuing. I want to thank you. Okay, yeah, that's just attributions. Let me see if there's any responses on this. It doesn't look like there are. Scrolling all the way back up. Nope. Nobody. Anyway, so, yeah, this is it's an interesting way of putting it, and it is very descriptive. This balance of the cost and the payout of mining, it's one of the things that keeps mining honest for Bitcoin and other proof-of-work currencies. And we've seen multiple times in the ICO space and also in some of the DeFi projects where just common logic flaws are abused or amended, where somebody just uses them as they were intentionally designed, but exploits some angle of them to make loaning millions of dollars worth of some coin to themselves, a possibility. But the fact of the matter is that proof of work is far better than proof of stake, and specifically because of the issues that was brought up here. The sunk cost, that's real. Because it actually costs something to participate in all, the idea of participating and then trying to abuse the system from inside, it might sound tempting, it might even be possible at some point, but it's not currently possible. Not without really costing yourself a lot of money. Because the rest of the network wants their money too. And if you abuse the system in order to get your money, after a while people will just say, hey, I noticed that this guy's getting all the block rewards. I'm not getting any of the block rewards. This is no longer fun for me because I'm not making any money. I'm going to switch to another coin. There have been several entities that have come into this space and assumed that whatever position they had in the market, like, guaranteed them something. And that's just not the case. There are no guarantees. There is no mommy and daddy here to enforce your guarantee, to make other people comply with your guarantee. There's only so many guns on the planet. There's only so many people that can handle those guns and point them at your head and tell you to do shit. And that's not going to go away either. Because every one of the people that's holding those guns, they have personal interests too. And if they're not getting rewarded enough for breaking into your house and trying to steal your shit for the state, they are going to be stealing shit for you from the state. You'll pay them or something. Be like, hey, yo, you can execute this warrant on me or whatever, and you can stop me from doing what I'm doing right now, or you just kind of like turn a blind eye and I'll like give you $5,000 and we'll have a good day. Well, if the cop isn't getting paid enough from his employer, he's not only going to accept that $5,000, he's going to like go about looking for other ways, other market participants that he could potentially get that $5,000 a month from, other than you. And we've seen this before where it's expressed in Venezuela, where instead of just like trashing the mining hardware that the cops were confiscating, they were setting the shit up at their house. They would just take the miners home and set it up there. I mean, really, what was achieved? The mining went from being a private individual to a cop, who at his core is a private individual. He just happens to be a cop as his job. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. And as far as where to go, I think Voivod, Event Horizon, here on Coin Metal. And that was Testament with Nostrovia. And although I was going to just let it keep rolling. No, I wasn't going to do that. Anyway, yeah, I let it roll a little bit too long. My apologies. However, I intend to make it up to you. And so I do have an interesting example of what we've been talking about with regard to this whole proof of work, proof of stake business, right? It's on Cointelegraph.com. Waves Enterprise expands to Singapore to pursue hybrid blockchain development. And so yeah, here we go. And let's see, who is this by? And this is by Andrea Shevchenko. So yes, penis. Waves Enterprise has onboarded Tokenomica? Yeah, Tokenomica Pte Ltd, a Singapore-based fintech company, as an operator for its hybrid public/private blockchain. Tokenomica will operate the Waves Enterprise public permissioned network starting in March. The expansion comes as part of a strategy shift for Waves Enterprise, focusing more on hybrid networks that can interface with public blockchains like Ethereum. In Gartner's Hype Cycle for Blockchain report, the analytical firm predicts that the enterprise would gradually move away from fully private networks to hybrid or even fully public network options. Waves Enterprise is making a bet on this prediction, focusing on creating networks that can interface with the wider blockchain world, especially in the context of tokens. In other words, they want to do NFTs and shit like that. Sasha Ivanov, founder of Waves, told Cointelegraph, quote, "There are no fully operating corporate or government blockchain ecosystems yet. I would say that the market is still in search of a minimal viable ecosystem model. But, in any case, you need to start out with something small and that's the only way to build a sustainable ecosystem. No, it's not. Ivanov noted that there are attempts by companies like Hedera Hashgraph to bring a mixed model, but he sees Wave's offering as more comprehensive. While the market demand for hybrid solutions is still small, this may change in a 3 to 5 years perspective, according to Ivanov. In the meantime, the Singapore operator will focus on promoting ready-made products like Wave's blockchain voting system. Singapore provides the perfect jurisdiction to develop Wave's vision. Quote, Singapore has one of the most advanced crypto and blockchain regulations in the world, Sasha Ivanov, founder of Waves, told Cointelegraph. Quote, it offers a neutral regime for the growth of crypto and digital asset transactions. All this made Singapore to emerge as the crypto hub in Asia. Such legal space is crucial for building next-gen ecosystems and disruptive economy models. No, it's not. You know what's absolutely necessary for any crypto project to survive? It has to have the right balance of incentives and security. The reason for this is because no cryptocurrencies are given their power by a state or a company. They're given their power by the participation of individuals just like you. People that are engaging in mining, people that are engaging in developing. All of this stuff is the product of volunteers operating in fully public ad hoc networks. Continuing on. According to Ivanov, Waves Enterprise's hybrid model occupies a niche that other projects have not populated yet, and it's because it's not worth a shit. Its architecture is configurable and can be tailored to a cryptography standard to local cryptography standards, and it features, quote, language agnostic smart contracts. The ability to implement custom cryptography was used by the Russian government in its recent blockchain e-voting pilot. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying these systems do not have utility. They do. But confusing them with what we would consider to be quote-unquote blockchains or cryptocurrencies in the greater context is, I believe, a mistake. But that's not for me to define. That is for the user, i.e. you, to define. Anyway, continuing on. Ivanov was somewhat critical of Russia's new cryptocurrency regulations, noting that, quote, new crypto regulations indeed don't suppose that corporate cases are based on public blockchain technologies and cryptocurrencies, which is one of the reasons why Waves Enterprise is now pursuing other jurisdictions. Waves will still pursue the Russian enterprise market, though, with Ivanov noting that, quote, private blockchain proved to be a demanded technology for digital transformation here in Russia. Actually, they were looking for a validity marker, and I would suppose they were happy with the solution that they got because, this guy's still alive. I would imagine that if he had failed or provided less than favorable results, he wouldn't still be alive. Anyway, the idea of using private blockchains for stuff, that's really, it's up to you. It's up to your trust threshold. I mean, do you trust the entity that is managing the quote-unquote blockchain or DLT? Do you trust the stakeholders in that network? If you do, then it's up to you to define its utility to you, or use to you or value to you. Anyway, I got this thing here. I want to cover this one, but there's another one that I really want to cover, though. Here we go. Again, all of the valuation for this stuff is all subjective. I mean, there are real-world inputs, but there is no guarantee that if you do something, somebody else is going to value it. You can make masterpiece paintings, you can write sonatas, you can write books, but there's no guarantee that doing so is going to be productive, or that the world at large, the market at large, is actually going to value it. Anyway, continuing on this, this first one I got is, or next one rather, it's on newsbtc.com. Software engineer warns NFTs are built on, quote, House of Cards. And this is by Samuel Wan, and this is authored approximately 4 hours ago. Non-fungible tokens, NFTs. Oh, and this is authored by, Samuel Wan, so yes, penis. Non-fungible tokens, NFTs, are digital assets that represent a range of unique, real-world, and intangible things. In recent times, digital NFT artwork has really taken off, thanks mostly to a string of high-profile sales. The main selling point of NFTs is their scarcity. An implied benefit is that they will exist forever on the blockchain. However, research conducted by Jonty Waring shows that this may not be the case. Let me right-click on that and see if that'll actually take us to the report. Let's see here. Oh, wow. Oh, Jesus Christ. He wrote a whole thread. Wow. So this actually links to the thread that this guy came across. And anyway, it shows this. Waring examined the blockchain data of two well-known NFTs and discovered that they consist of either a URL address or an IPFS hash. In other words, the existence of those NFTs depends on the marketplace seller staying in business. Short version, the NFT token you bought either points to a URL on the internet or an IPFS hash. In most circumstances, it references an IPFS gateway on the internet run by the startup you bought the NFT from. Oh, and that URL is not the media. That URL is a JSON metadata file. NFT is built on shaky foundations. In the first issuance, Waring referred to a piece called Crossroad by Beeple via the Nifty Gateway Marketplace. It was a first for Nifty that was the NFT would change depending on the outcome of the U.S. election. Crossroads sold for $6.6 million in February of this year. Waring noted that the NFT token for Crossroads is a JSON file hosted on Nifty Gateway's servers. He stated that if Nifty Gateway stopped trading, Crossroads would also cease to exist. He concluded that the piece would be worthless if that were to happen. Quote, that file refers to the actual media you just, quote, bought, which in this case is hosted via @Cloudinary CDN served by Nifty's servers. Again, so, if Nifty goes bust, your token is now worthless. It refers to nothing. This can't be changed. Similarly, an examination of Beeple's the first 5,000 days refers to an IPFS hash, or IFPS hash. In turn, this refers to a JSON metadata file referencing an IFPS gateway from NFT marketplace Maker's Place. Waring's views on NFTs. Both Crossroads and the first 5,000 days will exist as long as each marketplace seller stays in business, but there remains a nagging doubt about both Nifty Gateway and Maker's Place will go out of business one day. Waring called this situation, quote, a house of cards that predicts every NFT sold will be, quote, broken within the next 10 years. However, he stressed that this is not the case for every NFT in existence. Quote, in short, right now NFTs are built on an absolute house of cards constructed by the people selling them. It is likely that every NFT sold so far will be broken within a decade. Will that make them worthless? Hard to say. Software engineer at Consensus, Sam Walker, agreed with Waring's assessment and thanked him for bringing the problem into light. Walker said he would use this information to improve tooling around IPFS and NFTs, or IFPS. Damn it, I keep spelling it or running that through wrong. You know what? I want to see if there's an actual report associated with this, or if it's just a string of. Let me see here. So yeah, I can understand the points to some extent, and let me go to the thread and see if it elaborates on it any more. And this is by Jonty Waring, and he's on Twitter, Jonty, Jonty, at Jonty. Out of curiosity, I dug into how NFTs actually reference the media you're quote buying, and my eyebrows are now orbiting the moon. Short version. The NFT token you bought either points to a URL on the internet or an IPFS hash. In most circumstances, it references an IPFS gateway on the internet run by the startup you bought the NFT from. Oh, and that URL is not the media. The URL is a JSON metadata file. Here's an example. The artwork is by Beeple and sold via Nifty. The NFT token is for this JSON file hosted directly on Nifty's servers. And let's see, its description: limited edition includes signed limited edition prints of all three states. Pre-election Trump win, Biden win. This piece is the first for Nifty, a token that will change based on the outcome of the election. If anything is constant about the times we now live in, it's uncertainty. This uncertainty is perfectly encapsulated in this piece of artwork, as the person buying the piece will not know the final artwork. The artwork will be one state at auction before the election, and after the results of the election are known, will forever change to reflect a Trump or Biden win. I wonder what it does if one of the entities cheated. R/N, please fucking note, if Trump wins, the token will change to that video of sexy boy King Trump stomping through hell forever. I don't want you to come back at me bitching that you spent $2 million on this and now it's a video of an orange man going ham and it's keeping you up at night popping mad boners. Should have voted, bruh. And STFU, that's not going to be worth a fuck ton more when I hit 30 years of everydays and I have a permanent collection in the MOMA smack my head. Yeah, and it points to, let's see, background color FFFFF. external underscore URL, https niftygateway.com, number, and then image, https. I keep wanting to stuff an F in there. and then it's a file. res.cloudinary.com/niftygateway, video upload, blah blah blah, Biden win, blah blah blah. Yeah. So basically it's just some data. That file refers to the actual media you just quote bought, which in this case is hosted via Cloudinary CDN served by Nifty servers again. So if Nifty goes bust, your token is now worthless. It refers to nothing. This can't be changed, but you said some use IPFS. Or some use IPFS. Let's look at the $65 million Beeple sold by Christie's Fancy. The NFT token refers directly to an IPFS hash, IPFS.io. We can take that IPFS hash and fetch the JSON metadata using a public gateway. So well done for referring to IPFS. It references the specific file rather than a URL that might break. However, the metadata links to ipfsgateway.makerspace.com, makersplace.com, IPFS/Q1 blah blah blah. This is an IPFS gateway run by makersplace.com, the NFT minting startup, but who will go bust one day. Let's go ahead and extend this thread. You might say, just refer to the IPFS hash in _both_ places. Well, no, IPFS only serves files as long as a node in the IPFS network _intentionally keeps hosting it. Which means when the startup who sold you the NFT goes bust, the files will probably vanish from IPFS2. In fact, this is already happening. Let's see. Scanlime, which is Micah Lime with barcode Elizabeth. IPFS would prevent the original creator from changing the artwork, but it would not ensure that the files remain available. I've already, in my very limited search, found some NFTs with IPFS resources that are no longer hosted anywhere. In short, right now, NFTs are being built on an absolute house of cards constructed by the people selling them. It's like that every NFT sold so far will be broken within a decade. Will that make them worthless? Hard to say. NFT startups are long-term blackmailers is an entertaining concept, and it includes Andrew's tweet here. This creates a pretty solid exit plan for Maker's Place if they run into financial problems. Whoever owns the $65 million Beeple is going to be pretty motivated to buy the site or to fund it. John T. Waring continues, eagerly awaiting the day when I can buy bankrupt startup domains and start charging NFT owners to serve their files. Well, actually, you just pin the file to your own IPFS node. You absolutely can, but the metadata file generally points to a specific HTTP IPFS gateway URL, not the IPFS hash. That means when the gateway operator goes bust, I can buy the domain and start serving cat pictures instead of the NFT that you spent $65 million on. So that Check My NFT has been tracking NFTs created on Nifty, and apparently most of them are already broken. Holy shit. Check My NFT tweets, by the way, we've been tracking this for 7 days now, and most of the files we checked from from Nifty Gateway on IPFS fail. Oh my god. Jaunty Waring continues, I can't believe I have to say this, but not all NFTs. Yes, I know there are plenty of NFTs that do not suffer from these problems. I was just covering the mainstream ones that have been hitting the news. Next time, I promise to inject the words, quote, most and, quote, many in every sentence. Honestly, I'm not making this up. I'm not just making this up. Sam Walker tweets, as an Ethereum engineer with plenty of IPFS experience, the technical claims made in this thread are all true. The technology is new, and we are still iterating and creating best practices. Criticism is welcome. It will make us better. We need better tooling around IPFS and NFTs. Jaunty Waring, apparently this isn't clear and some people are very angry, so this thread is specifically criticizing the vendors currently selling fragile NFTs, not the concept of NFTs in general. Okay? Okay? Caviar NFT says, you can take the hash and plug it into any public IPFS gateway and get the file as long as IPFS nodes are still hosting it. To ensure this, IPFS also has pinning services that prevent items from being deleted, such as at IPFS Pinata. Whether makers place domain doesn't matter. Oh, okay. Making billions together says the NFTs are deadly. How long can it stimulate the global economy? Are the current NFTs beneficiaries hoarding money or spending it towards interest accounts to fight future laws against NFTs? I'm sure there's zero investment going into that shit right now. Let's see here. You know who I should ask about this? 3 Douglas. He would know. He would probably be able to propose a viable solution like now, like on the show, and one that would probably work. You know, he's been doing a lot of work with the PVT paper, and if you have any kind of interest in like self-hosted data and whatnot, it seems like that would be a solution to this. Is if you could like ingrain it into the NFT, that it'll refer back to a resource that you are self-hosting. That would, again, yeah, that would probably be a positive solution. Now, whether or not anybody else could view it, or what the utility of that would be, I don't know, but I'm sure it exists. And I'm sure that if there is a solution, he could probably provide it. I'm sure if he listened to what I was saying right now, he's probably like tearing whatever hair that remains on his head out and screaming, dude, I did that shit yesterday. I imagine that's the case. I could be wrong. Anyway, but yeah, so I think I can think of several different little applications for NFTs. I really can. In all honesty, I think it'd be a really good tool for documenting history. Like if you could tie video clips to it. You know, so then it's no longer a matter of subjectivity of what happened. You have an immutable record of it having occurred. And the technology is there. You know, we already have the concept of associating timestamp servers with it. You know, it's what mining is all about. So, you know, I mean, we could be talking about something like maybe a way of like, so you take a picture and when you upload it to the network, it's like a transaction on the Bitcoin network. You don't have a block size limit on this network. You just have a time limit. so that every 2 minutes the blocks verify. And somebody, the winning miner on that network gets the block reward. And so now suddenly it's an incentive, and there's an incentive to document history, both for the person that is documenting history and the miners that are participating in securing the network. And that'd be something to consider. I mean, it would certainly solve the issue of hosting, because as long as the network is live, it would refer back to a transaction. The transaction would self-host the data, so on and so forth. Yeah, I think that's like fully doable. I just described like 2 out of 3. And I mean, if we put 3 Douglas on it, he could probably have it coded for us in a few weeks. And if you connected him with like VergeDev and a few others that have really been dealing with this shit for years, they could qual check it really hard. Yeah, I think we got a working model, or at least a concept. Whether or not we have a proof of concept will remain to be seen. And it is with that I'd like to bring this episode to a close. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. Watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, as usual, I've not picked anything out. But I'm working on it. And I've got a few options here. Let's see, we've got about 5 minutes. Maybe a little bit less. Might go a tad over just to get it in there. And, Alright. No, that one's too long. We haven't played any Slipknot tonight. I think we might have enough room to fit in a good Slipknot song. Yeah, here we go. The Heretic Anthem by Slipknot. Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.